back after that slightly overrun previous session and the allure of coffee outside. This talk from from Geoff, ends with a coffee break. So you get another sort of 30 minutes to go for your coffee. Go for it. Geoff.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Geoff Smith. My role is Head of Technology and Applications at Sellafield. Secondary role is as Chief Architect. When the problems of the day job are done, I can fulfil the duties of the architecture role. The presentation I want to share with you this afternoon is really our observations, lessons that we've learned on what is the first year of really adopting an EA program at Sellafield. And predominantly some of the lessons we've learned, some of the models we've started to use to convey EA to the business. Okay. So the structure of the deck that we're going to run through this afternoon, just give you a little bit of background in terms of Sellafield itself. Some of you may have heard of us, to some of you it will be new. Talk a little bit about how EA landed in Sellafield and the mission change that Sellafield's going through, and transformation, and how this was a catalyst for change within EA as a catalyst for change with Sellafield. So we're going to talk a little bit through about some of the steps we took in helping to introduce EA, how we built up some of the basics, some of the prerequisite foundations for EA, how we started to demonstrate that framework with the business, and how we've started to drive it into more detail, make that more repeatable, and engage with the business to secure participation. I think the key lesson for today is really just to try and share with you some of the lessons we've learned on this journey, because as you've seen through some of the sessions we've had today, it's very much around the soft skills, it's around influencing, it's around communication, the messaging, and engaging with those stakeholders. The stakeholder management is very much a key part of that. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the work we're doing in our next steps in Sellafield's emerging business architecture, what we're doing in terms of information and data management, and some of the strategic decisions that we've helped to identify as part of this EA journey. Okay. So Sellafield, for those of you who haven't heard of the organisation, is a major operator in sort of nuclear waste processing in Europe, biggest one. Its history stems way back in the 1950s from the Ministry of Supply, when it was very much a key part of helping establish Britain's nuclear deterrent. It formed into the Atomic Energy Authority, then split up into the NFL, and it is now a wholly owned subsidiary of the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. It's also, in terms of history, it was the world's first commercial nuclear operating power generation plant called the Hull in '56, and it's a major employer in sort of the northwest of England, in West Cumbria and in the Warrington campus. And we have quite a diverse workforce of scientific, technical engineers. But we're going through a journey where recently Sellafield's been a waste reprocessing plant, and it's had a number of major deliveries of nuclear waste processing. That's now coming to an end, and we're having a fundamental mission change into decommissioning these major plants, these incredibly sensitive plants in terms of the environmental risk, the implications we have by getting it wrong. So we've got a very important mission to fulfill in terms of the safety and the security of decommissioning these plants as we move through into this post-waste processing activity. So back in around 2000, Sellafield outsourced its IT services. It had its first IT outsourcing contract with one of the major SIs. When that's gone through a number of changes, and when we're in our sort of second generation contract, the organisation recognised that it needed to introduce more of an intelligent client function, particularly around its architecture. It had a good team, a small team, but it needed to grow that team to become more engaged with the business and become more influential in the business in terms of driving our IT delivery. So the architecture team was grown, and there was a number of decisions made. One of them was to introduce the TOGAF standard, the TOGAF framework, to help provide a framework for the enterprise architecture programme. And that gave us benefits in that it was industry recognised and that it would give us some guidance to adhere to. So during some of the early work we were doing when the architecture team was formed, using some of the TOGAF principles of BDAT, business data technology, we started to try and just explain to some of our stakeholders, particularly in the IT area, what architecture meant and the relationships it had with in terms of aligning and directing our project activity. So this was one of the simple artifacts we used to show that how it was strategy-led, it was business outcome-led, and how that comes together in terms of providing a vision, and then how we use that to influence what our target state needs to be, and how all of this comes together to influence roadmaps and subsequent decisions. So this was really to try and show how architecture fitted in terms of Sellafield. In terms of transformation, when the transformation opportunity came along, and we really did see it as an opportunity because we were looking for a reason, a compelling case to drive enterprise architecture in Sellafield. We all understood the benefits, we could see the opportunity, but we had to get that into the business. So we were able to grasp the opportunity that transformation gave us to convey why it would be helpful. So in terms of this model that one of the team helped prepare, typically on the left, that really shows that the position that Sellafield have been operating in is probably reflective of many of the organisations that we represent today. In terms of very functionally siloed, decisions were made for the benefit of the function. There was very little cross-function, enterprise-wide thinking from an information perspective, from some of the processes, and that was particularly reflected in our IT portfolio, where it was extremely fragmented, huge portfolio of systems, very low level of utilisation in terms of the functionality, and there was huge opportunity. So we were able to show to transformation, actually we can help to drive change in terms of becoming more enterprise driven, having a single version of the truth that we all work to, having a rationalised IT portfolio, the benefits that gives us in terms of cyber threat reduction, economic benefit, etc. But particularly around data, because data was a really key point in terms of the organisation never really trusted or respected data to the levels that it should. And we were doing a lot of manipulation of data, copying of data, and not really trusting the source data. So it was really around making the right decisions with the right information at the right time, and giving that to the decision makers. So we were successfully able to actually land EA as a concept, transformation to help get us to our new mission change. So I think there was a leap of faith taken by the business to help us to land EA, but that was helped particularly because we had a couple of key stakeholders, one from the oil and gas industry, one from the aerospace industry, who'd seen EA programs work in their own organisations. And they were real advocates for us and trusted us and said, yeah, what Geoff's telling us is right because we've done it elsewhere and it gave us these benefits. So that gave us a lot of credibility, and because we were using an industry recognised framework, that also gave us credibility in terms of we're following a recognised framework to actually take us forwards. So this was one of the messages we used to help to sell the benefits of introducing the EA programme. But equally, we had to show some of the benefits in terms of what it meant to the actual business, because unless we could actually demonstrate the benefits and the value, we wouldn't get any progress at all. So this smart model, one of the team produced, who's with us today, Kevin, really reflected in terms of different use cases, person to person, activity within the business, person to system, organisation to organisation. And typically you can see a number of symptoms of the old ways of working that Sellafield was suffering, and the actual new opportunities that we could exploit by moving forwards. So this was starting to actually demonstrate in tangible terms what we could help to deliver to the business to influence the change for transformation and the mission change that Sellafield was going through. So we use this as an artifact to just try and show the old world and the new world and some of the opportunities that we have in terms of driving some of the innovation. So in terms of the steps we took, so the first step really around building the basics. We socialised heavily a lot of the benefits we've just been talking around in terms of enterprise architecture, and that went around a lot of different IT and business stakeholders around the business, a lot of one-to-one engagements, a lot of corridor conversations, lots of wearing out shoe leather around West Cumbria and Warrington. But people understood simplicity. They understood BDAT. They understood, yeah, it's logical linking of business to data types technology. Well, that makes complete sense. Well, why wouldn't you do that? And why wouldn't you adopt this framework? So because it was simple to understand, people were able to catch on to it and support us. We introduced an architecture governance board across business, and this was particularly tricky because we are a very scientific and technical based organisation. We've got to create many smart people in our business. The smart people come up with new ways of doing stuff. So we have a lot of shadow IT across the business. We use the architecture governance boards because there's an accompanying working group that runs with that to bring all of these different design authorities and SMEs together to drive consistency in direction in terms of the solutions we're adopting and actually share some of the strategies we want to drive. So it's very much a dissemination of information as well as an alignment of information. And one of the key points around establishing that EAGB is it really wasn't a policing function, and it's not around about the stick. It really is trying to get the right level of information, the right level of collaboration across those stakeholders, that there's value, that they want to engage, and there's we have meaningful discussions. So it's very much information sharing, there is some escalation, some resolution, but a lot of value. So again, carrot not stick. We did a number of iterations to get us to an architecture vision to help convey a number of the key messages that we wanted to show in terms of the art and the possible going forwards. And that went through a number of iterations. The team also developed an excellent set of architecture principles, which we have here on the right, covering business data types technology, fundamental for Sellafield and given our nature, security as well. We have that externally assured as well to just give us that extra confidence that when we're engaging with business, it's the right thing to do. So that's actually been through a number of our governance boards and it's been adopted. And that was really important because Sellafield had never had that. And we were trying to really drive out some very fundamental, basic considerations in terms of moving forwards. Our external reviewer said, architecture principles scream what an organisation's issues are, and because we were really down in terms of just getting some of the basics right, that was reflected in the principles. We also invested in an EA tool set, and this was really to help consolidate a lot of fragmented information on spreadsheets, Lotus Notes databases, stuff that's in people's heads. We've made an investment in OpenSI server. Quite happy to name the product because I think it's been a really good investment. And David from the team has been key to helping us to get a lot of the fragmented information in there, building some of the relationships, and we're getting some real value out of that. We did a first generation set of roadmaps in Microsoft Office. Classic sort of sunrise diagram, but that's all being transferred into iServer now, and it all ties back to specific work packages that we want to execute the programs. And I say want to, some of them are known, and some of them we have in execution, and some of them are planned. So the roadmaps absolutely fundamentally feed our investment planning activity. So we have a portfolio function, we have an annual investment planning function, but we are responsible for the technical content of what goes into those programs, and the roadmaps is our main source of information for that. So we've gone through that over the last few years, but the EA tool set is helping us to consolidate a lot of this information now. We've got the TOGAF ADM here, and again it's back to being adopting the framework, has given us a lot of benefits in terms of language and process. But we're working in a brownfield organisation. It's not quite the theoretical view that you go clockwise around the circle. We've got an organisation with an existing business model, and existing information and data architecture, application portfolio and technology, and we're trying to move these forwards in parallel together and keep them all synced up. So it's not quite as simple as the academic process would take us, but we are following that in terms of our approach. So what we did is, by actually demonstrating the framework, we produced some high-level models. They were very much some concepts that were on some presentations, very lightweight. We recognise that a number of our stakeholders, in fact most of them, particularly the senior ones, have got an attention span of a goldfish, so you've got to get in there, get it, snap it, and get it in there into their language so they understand it and it sticks. So what we did is we developed two working decks, an exec deck that was very short, probably around a dozen pages, to take us through our intention, and then we had a much deeper working deck that had a lot more depth in, and we were able to go through into more detail with some of those people that wanted to do so. So we're keeping an exec and a working deck together. Covered concepts covering those areas, covered key assumptions, risk, etc. High-level decisions as well, because we recognise there were some strategic decisions we needed to take. We also identified 13 specific areas of priority attention around the fact we needed better data integration, we needed higher mobility for productivity improvements, we needed to provide more access to the workforce to be agile in terms of how they consume data. So we came up with a number of areas for innovation. We had to take the original artefacts through a lot of governance boards in Sellafield. I think there's around 7 in total, because we had to cover a lot of different communities. And I think one of the key observations we'll come back to later in the deck is stakeholder mapping is so essential to what you need to do as an EA. It's about influencing the stakeholders and getting that alignment. We did, as part of the transformation programme, we did a stakeholder assessment, classic high, low, high, low. And pretty much everybody was in the high category, because everybody had an opinion, everybody had an influence, and we had to get around all these guys. But it doesn't matter how much you do, you always miss one. And in one of the governance boards, one of our more senior engineering managers caught us out because we were making quite a profound statement around some of our asset lifecycle information. We hadn't had him on board, we missed him, and so that caught us out. We were able to recover from that afterwards, but it was just an unexpected shock. You always think you got everybody, but there's always miss one. There's always some potential tension. So we produce these, the teams produce these high-level models, and we've been able to get that into the business, and they understand that, they understand where we're going with the framework, and they see the potential. So that's bought us time. So the team's now working on these architecture models into more detail, and that's linked up to some of our innovation activity. But what we are doing right now is structuring these models so they continue to have that elevator pitch. So if you're the CEO and you're in the elevator and you've got 30 seconds, you can get your high-level model out to take them through that, and equally a much more detailed deck for the rest of the stakeholders in the business. So those early concepts, and some of them we've got here in this deck, we're working down into more detail, and again that will all be linked back into Oversight Server. Also engaged in terms of our evolving information data management programme in terms of influencing some of the data management practices, because we haven't given some of our electronic data perhaps the care and custody as some of our formal paper records in the past. There's a lot of work to do there to catch up. So we are engaged in there. And also in terms of solution reuse, we've developed a library of architecture building blocks that allow us to give us some components, some Lego blocks for solution reuse, so that as we progress, we're able to make our solution activity more repeatable, it's more efficient, and we're starting to rationalise our overall portfolio. We're doing some stakeholder engagement from our enterprise architecture governance boards that happen monthly, and that keeps our sort of ICT community engaged. But what we are doing, as and when appropriate, is we are engaging with those higher level transformation boards, programme boards, to show them the progress that we're making. We're trying to be very participative in terms of engagement and making sure that they feel part of the journey and they have a voice heard, but very much iterative. So we go back when we've made some progress and we sanity check that. Rather than just disappearing and coming back with a finished item, we're maintaining that dialogue and they're happy for us to do so. So we've got that regular dialogue with the stakeholders on a frequency that's right for them. So that's pretty much a view on where we are with our high-level apps architecture. So the key points really, lessons learned. By adopting an EA framework, it gave us a huge amount of credibility in terms of when we're following an industry-wide recognised framework. Most importantly, in terms of seeing the team dynamics, it gave us vocabulary and the language consistency that we didn't have previously. We'd all come from different organisations, different backgrounds, different skill sets, and we'd all refer to something with different names. But by actually adopting a framework, we had complete alignment in terms of what we all understood each other's meaning. So it was really profound in terms of the benefits from that. So it's worth doing it just from that. And we see this actually with our wider ICT community in that we all refer to the same thing by different ways. Some people have a systems engineering background, some have an analytics background, and they just don't quite line up. So we were able to sort it out for ourselves, but there is still that wider language in the business. So having the industry framework helped us a lot. And because it was simple, people just got BDAT, it just made perfect sense, they were able to understand it, and it was just like, well, why aren't we doing that already? So it was really good. And having some advocates out there of EA, as I said, from external organisations who'd seen it in action before, just gave us that extra confidence, and helped to get it to stick. So that was really useful for us. And they continue to be really good supporters as we move forwards. I think it's just figures getting that right balance between wait and you'll get something great, or doing it iteratively and keep them engaged, but doing it on a frequency that we're not going to frustrate them. Some other key lessons, you've seen in some of the sessions about today around communication. It's not the content or the models that's the success, it's the message and the influencing as an EA that you have within the business. So that communication is absolutely what it's about. It's making sure you understand your target audience and shaping that message for that audience so that they understand and they can relate to that. It's all about being business outcome focused when you're dealing with senior stakeholders, but then putting it into a language that some more of the IT team can understand from their viewpoint. Clearly, we're all working in operationally live environments, so you can't go through BDAT and sequential process. You've got to try and run all this in parallel. You're trying to fix stuff as well as transform it all in parallel. So it's really, it's a challenge. I think by being collaborative and engaging with all the participants and the stakeholders, we're able to refine our models on the go, so there's no surprises. And equally, doing it iteratively, we're just able to socialise our recommendations, solicit support for that, maintain interest. So it's really important too. So you're just getting that right balance between too frequent an update, you lose their interest, or too far off and they lose sight and you forget what you're working in. So if we turn to our next steps, the business architecture is evolving because Sellafield's going through a management system review in terms of business processing, so we are fully engaged in that now, so we've got some opportunity to influence that. So we are understanding more our operating model, the processes that we're going to have for the future, and our business is still trying to grapple with, what does the future look like for the future post waste processing. state for Sellafield. So we need to be agile and adapt to that. We're working with our information management colleagues in terms of the information data management architecture, what we need to support that. So again, it's moving that forwards incrementally. And as I said, we identified a number of priority areas for further attention, and that will help to influence our innovation activity as a consequence of that. So it's about really trying to introduce some of those disruptive technologies that could have a real benefit. But I think the key lesson from the journey this first year has been that, it's a marathon. You know, you're not going to achieve this overnight. It takes time to build trust with a business. You have to build those relationships, and that's an investment. So it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So aim for the end game. Keep those business outcomes and objectives in mind for the messaging and the work you're doing. And hope that some of these lessons learned from us over this last year can help you with your role as a successful EA. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoff. Bang on time, actually. You've brought some time back. But if there's any questions in the room, we can take them quickly now. And if not, catch me at a coffee break.
Thank you.